Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how CEOs, founders, and senior executives sell their ideas, point of view, and personal brand to the people who matter most. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want to build market eminence, amplify your influence, and attract high-value prospects, investors, partners, talent, and media opportunities with less chasing and more confidence. Let's go. Well, if you think your business is undergoing changes and turbulence and sales disruption of every possible kind, you need to talk to my friend Robert Patin. Robert, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, bud. It's great to be here.
So for the few people on the planet who do not know about the awesomeness of Robert Patin and creative agency success, creativeagencysuccess.com. Could you please share a little bit about your professional journey that brought you to the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, it was a very meandering journey. I initially went to college for commercial photography, had a photography business for several years. And at some point, I was photographing weddings and realized at some point that I really hated what it was that I was doing and decided to shut the business down and went on like a year kind of walkabout and ended up spending every single dime of money that I had to rush back to Los Angeles, try to find a job as quickly as I could. Just happened to find a job as a senior leader in finance for a marketing agency, an experiential agency. And the rest is kind of history from there. I worked at that agency for about 2 years, helped grow it significantly, went and did it again at another one, and landed here. It's like this great kind of crossover between this thing that I have always loved growing up, which is the creative mind, the person that is able to be the dreamer in the world, but I just am not that person. My brain is an Excel spreadsheet. Like if you were to scan my brain, I'm sure it would just be Excel logos. And it's being able to actually help foster that creativity in the world and help someone that needs that Excel mind and being able to create more business fundamentals of what they need to be able to be successful. And that's kind of how I landed where I landed.
So, and your specialization, obviously, is the world of creative agencies. My understanding is that you help folks move from a 6 to a 7-figure creative agency in one part of the business, and then a 7-figure to an 8-figure creative agency in a slightly different part of the business. So we'll talk about both of those, and I absolutely want to talk about sales and selling and how that has evolved now in the last little handful of time. But what do you find are the biggest obstacles from that 6-figure business owner? Maybe they're bringing in 200K, 300K, but they just can't get to that. They can't even get close, maybe, to that 7 figures. What are the problems? What are the hidden obstacles under the waterline?
They're trying to be an 8-figure business when they're not really even hitting 7, right? Like they are trying to overcomplicate the business by following this large, Dentsu WPP model where they're doing everything for every single person and they're adding on services after service because every single client is asking for something new, and they end up creating so many blocks to being able to actually grow that they really struggle. And so the business owner ends up becoming the block in the funnel. Their time ends up becoming not only sparse, but just non-existent, completely non-existent. And they are constantly running around chasing their tails. And until they actually start to shed some things and start to focus more, they are never going to grow.
So am I right that this comes down to making some big, bold decisions around specialization or target market or industry niche? How do you guide people through that process?
The reality of how I see it is that for a creative, right? Like I'll give you a specific story. I was talking with a client where I asked him this question when he was initially starting in the accelerator. And I asked him, well, why did you start your agency? And he said, well, for money. I started a business so that I could make money. I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me get this straight. So you started and you decided to go to college for design. You went to school for design. And so you thought engineer, accountant, lawyer, doctor, designer, I'm going to do this for money. That's your decision making, right? And he looked at me, and I'll remove the expletives, but was upset, not upset, but like, yeah, right. I get your point, Robert. And so let's talk about the actual reason why. So like tell me the first thing that you can think of a creative item that you created, and started describing and talking about his dad and how he had, spent his Sundays drawing cartoons with his father. And it was like this familial thing that he had. And he's working with home goods products. And so I'm like, all right, so what you're looking to do is actually create homes for the consumer, for the brands that you work with. And so that's a great kind of crossover. The way that I look at it is that we have all, even in my own path, right? I went to photo school. I love creative people. However, I am not the world's best creative. I would have really tried to pursue that if I had the mind to do so. And I've had this meandering career, and him the same way, that we've chosen the things that we've chosen for a reason. So let's slow down for a moment. Let's take a look at ourselves to understand why it is that I chose what I've chosen, why it is that I do what I do. Get back to the reality of the thing that you love, so that you actually have the energy, the might, the power to actually get through what is largely a very difficult journey, right? Entrepreneurism is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah.
And if you don't have this unlimited power source inside of you that is driving you towards a direction of something that you enjoy doing, you're going to run out of that energy. And so how do you get back to the core of what it is that you enjoy, why it is that you chose what you've chosen? And let's turn that into your differentiator. Let's make that your rally cry. Share that with the world.
And this impacts everything. This impacts their ability to attract talent. This impacts their sales. This impacts their partnerships. This even impacts their valuation and or potential to eventually sell the firm.
100%. It impacts largely every kind of corner of the business, from who it is that we work with, how it is that we talk to them, how it is that we sell, how it is that we, communicate the value that we're providing, how it is that we attract people to be able to build culture within the organization, how we set up systems, all of it. It impacts every single piece of it.
Yeah, really, really powerful. Well, I want to shift into sales and selling. Big shock, because this is called the Selling Show. But before we turn on the microphone, you said that you in your client base, you have seen some dramatic changes in the last few months around sales and selling and what it takes to really engage today's economic buyer. What are you seeing out there? And then we'll dig into the details.
So, I mean, over the course of the last year, I would say, I've seen a lot of shifts and a lot of trepidation, a lot of decision deferment, where, you're not getting no's. People end up just kind of ghosting you. People will come back, 6-8 months later and then end up saying yes. But as an example, before we hit record, there was a specific client that had gone from a 49% conversion rate in 2024 to a 7% in Q1 this year. And nothing had shifted or changed, really. Like, the industry hadn't shifted in a big way. The mindset, though, of the buyer has really shifted. I mean, all of us are exposed to the same media, presumably. Okay, maybe not exactly the same media. Maybe that's a little bit of a stretch, but we are exposed to media that is talking about the potential of recession. We're talking about tariffs. We're talking about inflation. We're talking about, down markets. We're talking about the impact of the stock market. Like, we're talking about all these things that are going on globally, even politically, all of it, right? And it changes the way that each person within an organization, even if it's a large multinational organization, it changes the decision making of the people within the organization. And we have to meet people where they are. And so I'm seeing salespeople, I'm seeing my clients not having shifted, thinking that they can still be that relationship, soft oriented sell, when I think that we need to meet the world where it is, which is a bit of a harsher edge right now. It just is a harsher edge.
So walk us through, in the entire sales process, from initial hello, lead gen, follow-up, right? Going from the marketing qualified lead to the sales qualified lead, discovery call, etc. Where do you think those key touch points need to be tightened up or toughened up?
I would say more so on the discovery, and then in the management of objections were the two places, right? If you don't get the conceptual buy-in in the initial discovery conversation, you don't get them inspired, you don't get them excited, they haven't trusted you as a salesperson, like there's no, you can bridge the gap, but it's very difficult to bridge the gap, and it's predominantly going to be a pricing conversation at that moment. And then the reality is that people are scared. People are scared. And so the objections, then the way that you manage those objections to help them not feel as scared about making what can be a scary choice for them, you're not going to make the sale because people are going to defer to being safe. That is what we do as a species. We want to protect ourselves. We want to be as safe as we possibly can. And so they're going to take the safe option, and at least as they're perceiving it, which is, I'm not going to make a choice. I'm just going to defer the choice and I'm going to wait and I'm going to see what happens out there in the world, when the reality is you may know that they should make a choice now for a specific reason. And not saying you should be inauthentic, be authentic, but explain why. Meet them where they are.
Hold on. This one is so good, even I'm taking notes. Listen, are you a CEO, founder, or corporate executive ready to fix your market obscurity problem and gain the market eminence you know you and your company deserve? Cool. Book your private Market Eminence Roadmap call with me, and let's see what might be possible for you. The link is simple. doitmarketing.com/call. See you over there. Now, I gotta get back to taking more notes. Yeah, that bravery step of telling them, because obviously if we're hiring a creative agency, we're not just, spending money on, a party. There is, we're going to redo our website. We're going to redo our digital marketing. We're going to redo our entire trade show strategy, whatever it might be. We're going to shoot all these amazing testimonial videos. Are people not being as upfront about the ROI and the cost benefit analysis and the outcome and result conversation, where someone claims poverty, right? You're talking to a CMO or you're talking to a business owner. Well, we really don't have that kind of budget. We really don't have the money. I think we have to say, or I think if it's truly in their best interest to invest with us, we can say something like, well, Robert, the money problem, it sounds like, based on what you shared with me, the money problem is the problem that we're solving. And then just shut up and let them respond to that. Let them think about that. Let them marinate that. But is there not enough hard numbers, metrics, ROI, using the prospects numbers and the prospects landscape that would make buying from us sort of an easy investment?
Yeah, I think that is true, generally speaking, right? And if you're not having that conversation, I think that that's largely kind of table stakes. Like you have to be doing that, really. And if you're not doing that, you definitely should be doing that. But the things that I've been encountering, or that clients have been encountering, is a bit more, it's deeper rooted, really. So like, as an example, client call, the example of what ended up happening is like, this feels right. This feels like the direction I should go. I'm happy with you guys as the agency, and you guys will be the agency I will choose, but I feel like I need to stop and wait and see what happens with the tariffs. So the way that I would want and suggest that you would handle this conversation, and the way that this was handled in this specific instance, was, I hear you. The reality of how tariffs are going to impact your cost of goods is impactful, and I could see why it would give you some trepidation. But let me ask you this question. This person was located in California as well, so you can make your assumptions on their political beliefs based on that. But the conversation that then ensued was, so let me just get this straight. You're going to make your business choices of what you're going to do as a business based on what Donald Trump decides. Is that right? Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm like, well, hold on. Explain for me for a moment. Well, then what was the decision-making criteria? Because if you're going to start it anyways, and the tariffs is the decider of whether you're going to get going right now, it helped me understand why you're waiting to hear on the tariffs. Like, what is it going to change in your business? It's like, well, it may change price point. It's like, okay, valid. It may change the price point, but the $4, $5, $6 that it may change in your actual product, it doesn't change it from it being an everyday buy to a luxury buy. Like, it doesn't change it that much, where the brand or the product that we would be designing for you would actually shift that much. And the reality is that this was the actual hook sinker for them of being able to actually get them over the line. Was the reality is that every other one of your competitors is actually believing and thinking the same thing that you were thinking a moment ago. And that actually creates an opportunity for you. Because if you're looking at launching this new brand and everyone else is waiting, depending on what happens with the tariffs, which, as I agreed with you, is a reasonable consideration to be making, but that creates a gap in the market, and that creates an opportunity. So your option is either capitalize on that opportunity, or the person we're talking to in 2 hours can capitalize on it. Your choice. Like, I don't have skin in the game for you on that specific front. If you're going to pick us later or now, like, it doesn't matter. But my recommendation is you should do this now because it's more opportunistic for you.
Yeah, very, very powerful. I love that. One thing I want to address that you are masterful at, and I think you teach it and have written about it in your books. Sometimes we think that the sum total of our sales success is what happens when someone knocks on the door, books the first call, gets on the first Zoom. You have mastered this entire pre-call landscape. So before anyone ever gets on the phone with you or your team or with an agency owner who might be a client or with a consultant, before they get on that call, what have they consumed of your content? What have they read? What have they watched? What have they listened to? What do they believe about themselves and their problem, and how much you know about them and their problem? What quotes do they come back to you with? Well, Robert, I've watched your whole YouTube series, and man, when you said that agencies that do this succeed and agencies that do that fail, man, that really spoke to me. It's like, well, they're already 80% sold. How do you get your CEOs and founders of these creative agencies to soften up the shoreline, so to speak, and put all of this pre-conversation content out there as an asset for their firm?
I would suppose it also depends on the type of business, but we'll talk about ones that are working more with decision makers or the owners, proprietors of the business, like as you're describing, really. And one of the things that I've been doing quite a lot recently, and as you know, I'm a very data-focused person, as I was describing, my brain is healthy. There's this platform, Clay, that we've instituted that is further taking what you're just describing and actually purposefully, very programmatically putting in front of the individual the type of content that they need to be listening to. So as an example, someone goes and downloads a book on our site. It goes automatically based on their email address, their domain name, which we don't accept any free domain, so it has to be a business domain. It goes to that person's website, make sure it confirms their name of the business. It goes and finds the company's LinkedIn profile. It then goes and takes that person's personal LinkedIn profile. It determines from their website what exactly it is that that business does from a service vertical. Then it goes to their company's LinkedIn profile and determines whether the business is plateaued, whether it's grown, whether it's shrunk in size. And so depending on the size of business, number of employees that business has, we are then purposefully serving the type of content to them that is the right time and place for that specific person. So we know for ourselves, right, that the average amount of emails that someone is engaged with before they book a call is 7. So we're looking to get 7 open, 7 engagements, 7 clicks from someone in that timeline. We also will then serve content in multiple different formats. Like, you may prefer to watch video. I tend to prefer to listen to audio. So based on the way the person likes to consume content, we have video, written, and audio. So we are serving the content to them based on their own personal preference, based on what they're clicking on within our emails as well. And so making sure that we're doing it at that right time and place with the right type of content now that is the right size for that specific person's business. A 3-person firm versus a 10-person firm versus a 25-person firm is dealing with very different challenges, very different mindset-oriented pieces. So it's how can you leverage now the thing that's constantly swirling in my mind at the moment, and working with clients and even for myself, is how do you serve your audience with the content that they need at that right point in time? And how can you make, based on the information that we have available to us in the digital age, in the most human and authentic way possible? Like, I think that the advent of AI, ironically, can allow for us to be more purposeful and more human with each person we interact with if it's leveraged properly.
I love that. Now, when you say you deliver the right kind of content in the right time. Is that are we delivering that by a series of follow-up emails?
Can be emails. It can be a follow on something on social that you have. It could be, it could be any channel, right? Whatever channel you're currently on. Largely for me, I don't believe that there's just like a specific channel that you need to be on, because the reality is that it depends on your audience. As an example, one client, they were wanting to utilize LinkedIn as their predominant channel, but they were going after holistic medicine doctors, chiropractors, that sort of thing. And they're just not there. That's just not where they live. And so the channel just doesn't make sense. Where it may make sense for me because, marketing agencies and creative firms do tend to be quite heavy in social media, especially of those that are offering that as a service. So it makes sense for us. And the reality is you have to be thoughtful to who your audience is.
How interesting. Are the holistic healer type folks, is that more Instagram? Is that more YouTube? I mean, where did they end up going?
They ended up going email and direct mail.
Oh, how about that? Yeah. Direct mail. I've heard of it. It's very exciting. Very cool.
Usually goes in my trash can.
Yes. Holy smokes, so much value in this episode. Listen, if you are loving what you're hearing, feel free to download, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to The Selling Show. Now, back to the interview. Let's go back to the general playbook of selling in late 2025 into 2026. More assertive, a little bit more forward, a little bit more objection resistant, meaning that the salesperson is objection resistant, knows how to circumvent them, knows how to navigate them, knows how to comfortably put the buyer at ease and basically diffuse some of the most common objections. What else should go into that 2025, 2026 sales playbook?
So in the question, something that came to mind, a mutual friend of ours, Chris Bayless, years ago in the meeting that the two of us were in, he was telling us about the way that he goes about training his sales team. And he was saying that he has this video that's talking about the fact that his sales team is going to war. And at the time, I can very vividly remember my disagreement with him. And him and I have had for years these really debate-oriented ones, out of respect, but the debate ones of I just adamantly disagree with you. And I've over time become more and more in his camp. And what I've realized, and I think it's really true now today, and the reason why I'm saying this is his intention behind what he was saying there is that as a salesperson, as a person that is selling to someone, that you're at war, not with them, but alongside them. The reality is, and the example I like to use here is if I thought that I was going to die on a plane and that I just had this fundamental internal belief that I was going to die on a plane, there's zero chance that I'm going to get on a plane until I believe that that's not the case, right? You can try to convince me all day long. There's no way that's going to happen. Yeah. So there's core foundational, deep-rooted things that each one of us have. And if you're standing at the front lines with them, fighting their own imposter syndrome, their own self-doubt, their own concern, the own fear of what's happening within the market, you're not there alongside them, helping them break those things down, there's zero chance that they're going to. The first buy that any prospective person has to have is in themselves. I am capable of doing it. I am capable of making that happen. And you do that in so many different ways via challenging them to look at things differently, maybe trying to shift their mindset, giving social proof. There's loads of ways to go in about it, but ultimately you have to meet that person where they are and actually help them break down the barriers that they have themselves in the direction that they want to head.
You have a fabulous new book, new-ish, right? Came out in earlier part of this year, The Future Proof Agency. In the early part of that book, we talked about authenticity in the age of AI, but you also spend some time in the early part of this book talking about authority and profitable authority and being sort of the face and the voice of your agency and the face and the voice of your target market, being their advocate, being their champion, etc. For someone who is afraid of stepping into that role, afraid of stepping into the spotlight even a little bit, give us a little bit of the Robert Patin authority rant. Why is that important, perhaps now in the age of AI more than ever?
So a couple of thoughts. One, I'm a fairly introverted person, right? And there's plenty of my face now online. So it's definitely something I had to overcome myself. So if you're that person that doesn't want to do it, I completely get it. I was definitely there years ago myself and feel a whole lot more comfortable with it. The reality is that if you were to think about Apple, you think Microsoft, you think Berkshire Hathaway, there's people that come immediately to mind with each one of those brands. And you have this large idea, this like rhetoric oriented concept that so many people have been putting out there for years, that you have to segment yourself from a brand, that you shouldn't be the brand when it comes to a service base. And like, sure, there's base foundational principles that I think and I agree with, but the reality is that you can lift both tides. If you align your business and your own brand together, you're able to actually have them both rise up. And if you're not actually being able to be the face of the thing that you want to sell, you're not the person that is speaking and advocating for yourself. Like, there's no one else out there that's going to advocate for you. At the very least, in the world that we live today, very noisy, very loud. And if you are not willing to be out there, you don't have to scream the loudest, but at the very least, being vocal for yourself and advocating for yourself, you're going to be left behind.
Well, and then there's another aspect. So we've talked about authenticity a little bit. We just talked about authority. The way that rather than shout and scream about your wonderfulness, you also talk about building a referral network, building a non-pitch referral network. Talk a little bit about, so authenticity, yes. Authority, yes. This third bucket sounds like relationships, that our relationships can really lead to some business breakthroughs. For people that are, again, maybe a little bit introverted, or they have a bad taste in their mouth about referrals. Referrals never work out. Everyone wants to take, nobody wants to give. I don't like referrals. I've never gotten really a good amount of referrals systematically. Let's talk about that relationship piece and how that fits into your strategies.
There's a couple of things. One, I foundationally, principally believe that if you are not investing into relationships yourself, then why is someone else wanting to invest into the relationship with you? So think about that as a core, like, foundational piece. There was a book that I read vis-a-vis someone that was coming on my podcast, actually, Stacey Brown Randall. She wrote a book called Referrals Without Asking that developed a lot of my own like ideas around this. And so I'd recommend checking out the book if you haven't read it. The concept of what she talks about in the book is that a referral actually has nothing to do with you. Zero to do with you. It actually has to do with the fact that if someone came to me with a problem, a friend of mine, and I knew that David could help solve the problem, what I'm actually doing is I'm making myself feel good by solving someone else's challenge, by introducing them to David. It just so happens that David could solve the problem. It's not actually about David. It's about me helping someone that I care about. And I am now entrusting David with the person I care about and my own name by doing so. And so there's a couple of components to it. It's one, recognizing that fact and stop being so self-centered that you believe that if you're not getting the referrals, that it's because someone's not, having mutual reciprocity in your relationship, but maybe they haven't come across it. Asking for it just makes it awkward. But also just recognizing the relationship that you have with that person. I don't know that I want to call it a love language, but something that I really enjoy doing is like giving really personal gifts. And so like within my own referral network of people that have and do continue to send referrals, we don't ask for them. We will send over like cute, thoughtful, nice things to those people.
Yeah.
And I'm just recognizing them as who they are and that they were top of mind, and also making sure that I am top of mind too. Because if I don't have any conversation with them, I am not seeing them. And as I already self-described as an introvert, I'm not out there in the world every day. I'm also older now, so I'm not going out at night, that sort of thing, and by 9, that there's other ways to go about it, and just making sure that you're being cognizant and recognizing the relationships with the people that you have.
So good. And I love the non-ask touch point, right? Because everyone knows, one of my early mentors said to me, Robert, people are smart. They know what you do. I mean, obviously, if you have a friend relationship, a colleague relationship, they know what you do. They know that you are in a commercial business where clients and revenue and leads and introductions are important. You don't need to beat them over the head constantly, but stay in their world, add value, stay connected, give first, all of those mantras. And if you do it with the right people and you've really curated this list of folks that you want to keep close and that you want to keep warm, that can't help but come back to you. I'm curious, just with the last question about the relationships, when you initially have a meeting with someone and you're vetting a new relationship, perhaps, do you sort of, is it almost like a first date where it's like, well, here's what I do, here's who I do it for, here's our typical product, here's our typical service, here's our sweet spot, we're really great at this, we're not so great at that. And then should we have a meeting of the minds where we each come together and share what we're truly about, what's our superpower, and where we fit into each other's landscape?
Well, the approach that I take, if I'm looking at finding new referral partners, the approach that I personally take is when reaching out to people, I'm looking for someone that is going to come across my ideal client on a regular basis. And the first thing that I would recommend to do is, as you go into that initial conversation with someone, don't say anything about yourself unless asked. It does two things. One, if a person that you're in the room with has zero interest in actually being helpful to you, they're never going to ask. And so very upfront, very quickly, that they're not going to be a potential good referral partner. And the person that would be is going to be the person that is going to ask. So start the conversation by asking about them, taking interest in them, getting to know them, find out how you can help them, because the more of the relationship that you invest in there, that it'll end up creating for a better relationship. And then as that relationship develops, you now know who they are. You can start to see how you and your business can actually fit into them, how it can provide a strategic partnership, strategic alignment, how prop them up, how to help serve them. And as you do those things, you will develop the relationship more meaningfully. And at some point, presumably, they will get to know what it is that you do, what it is that you do well.
Yeah.
And you should be able to do it in a short sentence and not something that takes 45 minutes to explain.
I love it. Excellent. Well, as we're landing the plane here, I've got two final questions for you. The final question is, how can people get connected and stay connected to more Robert Patin brilliance? But before we get there, if folks were to take one overarching idea for what they need to have a successful agency, a successful consultancy, a successful professional services firm, or just anything that we talked about with sales and selling and kind of the state of selling, what would you hope that one macro level takeaway would be?
Be true and authentic to yourself, the thing that you enjoy doing. You're here on this planet to do something that you enjoy. And if you're not enjoying and living your true self, then you're not going to attract the people that you want to. You're not going to have fun. You're not going to have the motivation. And the more connected you become to yourself and to the reason why you're here on this planet, the better off you and your business will be. And to answer the final question, go to creativeagencysuccess.com or look me up on LinkedIn. Always happy to connect with people. And if you have any questions, I'm here to help.
Amazing. And there's all kinds of books, resources on the website, YouTube channel, anything like that?
Got a YouTube channel as well. We've got 3 books, The Agency Blueprint, Practical Agency, and The Future-Proof Agency. The Agency Blueprint's more intended for agencies that are the 7 figures plus, and Practical and Future-Proof Agency are meant for agencies that are between the 100 to $1 million in revenue.
Nice. Well, Robert Patin, you are a rock star. Thank you for all the wisdom you just shared with us.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.